Welcome, everybody. How's it going? I am Eric. This is Robert. Today it is In the
Oh,
Spotlight. It is Scream Stream Edition. And so Robert is joining with me today. We have an amazing guest for you guys, Mr. David Howard Thornton. You will know him as the Terrifier, Art the Clown. Definitely, like I said, we are excited for this one, Robert. We've talked about it and definitely looking forward to it. So we appreciate if you're watching on the rewind. Thank you so much. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Like I said, so you get notifications because we will continue to have guests show up and have more interviews like this down the road. But we want to go ahead and see, Robert, who might be in the chat. So let's give a little hi. Let's ask Art the Clown to give us a little hi here real quick. That is high for you. And so, Robert, are you excited?
I am. I am really looking forward to this. This is actually one of the films that I watched during lockdown. So definitely looking forward to have some good questions that I want to ask, and just really, me and clowns. So really excited. Really looking forward to this.
Well, when you watch something like this in lockdown and then you can't get out, and you're like, okay, now I'm scared, because like you're checking the closets underneath your bed, you're like, all right, like I'm already got my mind working, it's things are going, but definitely we want to have a little bit of fun. We are going to bring our guest on, but let's go ahead and kick off our show like we normally do. We're going to bring in our basically our intro. I did a little bit different this time because it is Scream Stream Edition. So let's go ahead. And welcome, David Howard Thornton. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Love that intro. That was spooky.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah. And then we believe on taking people for a roller coaster ride. So it's like it's a lot of ups and downs, and we have a lot more character development, a lot more plot development in this one, especially for our new heroine. Where this is like I kind of look at Terrifier 1 as being an arts movie, setting art up. Terrifier 2 is setting this new heroine up, so it's a lot her story. But trust me, Art's in it most of the film too, so don't worry. He's not just going to come in every 20 minutes or so. He's front and center. But we also wanted to have a nice balance between those two characters. So I think those moments with her are some good breathing areas for the audience before we smack them again in the face. So, and there is a scene that I think will definitely, at least be equal to the hacksaw scene, if not top it. That happens. Good.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine there'd have to be some there's that having to sit there and be like, well, we have to do something that has to at least equal that.
Yeah. And what we finished filming it right before Christmas, and what was originally written before the pandemic was good, and we started filming it before the pandemic, but the pandemic allowed Damien to really sit back and have time to flesh out that kill, and he decided to change some things and make it bigger. And so we actually scrapped what we originally filmed and came back and just started fresh. It took about a week to film the scene because there are just so many elements to it.
What's it like? Was it like coming back, now during the pandemic, trying to get everything, situated and to perform, or just do the job that you're so used to doing in one way, and all of a sudden, on top of that, there's restrictions and all.
Yeah, that was definitely a little bit more difficult because, for one, we had to, comply with all the SAG, rules that they had mandated. So that kind of limited a lot what we could do because we're a smaller budget film. So we weren't able to have the whole entire crew for these last scenes. So we had to just bring in a skeleton crew, just the essentials, which would suck because it's fun having the whole gang there because we all have fun together. But at the same time, I guess we were more focused because we didn't have as many people, that way distracting us. But there were a lot more limitations because it's challenging when you all have to wear masks and quarantine yourselves and stuff like that. I can't wear a mask on set once I have my makeup on. So.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, well, it would be very difficult to put after you do all the makeup or prosthetics to then put that on. So yeah.
But if you do want a mask in the pandemic with the Terrifier, we do have those are out there. So you can find those.
Yeah. Those are fun to wear in public. You get some strange looks from people.
They're like, "Oh my God, what?" So now you don't seem to be a method type actor. You seem to be able to be a character type actor. You created a memorable performance. Do you identify like questions to your role for preparation, such as like, who am I? What surrounds me? There was an actress, Uta Hagen. She held a lot of influence in 20th century American theater and teaching at Herbert Berghoff Studio in New York. She was an influence with craft and technology of theater and the techniques and everything. So do you identify questions, or what's preparation for you? I mean, now you've gotten the role down, but heading into this, the second one, what's your preparation like? What kind of techniques?
Well, yeah, I basically, my first day on set, well, actually the first, when I went in for my makeup test, actually, I sat down because it was Damien doing all my makeup. So we had like 3 hours just to sit there and talk. And that was my first thing. It's like, tell me everything about this character. You created him. I want to know everything, what you want with him and all that. And he's like, you know what? Funny thing is, I really haven't thought out his whole backstory yet. So I just thought he was a cool character. He's kind of scary and stuff like that. It's like, why don't we just come up with this together? So that's what we've done when we were filming Terrifier 1. And we to this day, we're still fleshing things out in our heads about who he is and what motivates him and everything like that. And so it's been one of those processes where Damien and I were discovering the character together a lot, right before we started making the film. And I think that was kind of fun. And I think like, I remember there was like that one line that the cat lady says in the movie. It's like he's doing this because he thinks it's funny, and I'm like, I like that. That's like he's not one of those killers that's doing this out of revenge or anything. He's doing this because it amuses him. And I think that's why he's like the anti-clown, because clowns do everything to amuse other people. They want to bring joy to other people. He wants to bring misery to other people, and that misery he brings to other people brings him joy. It's all about what he can do to entertain himself, and that's where I really just started, developing the character from that. I was like, he's doing everything what he thinks is funny.
And everybody needs a good clown in the neighborhood, right? I mean,
yes.
In the neighborhood, everybody needs one.
Won't you be my slaver?
Now, Robert is also, he does a lot of German expressionism, dealing with a lot of the back in the day of silent films and things like that. Robert, you had a few things that you kind of wanted to go over.
Yeah. So my background also, in addition, before I became assistant principal, I taught film studies for the last 10 years. So it's one class. This year I couldn't teach a class, so I'm like, I want to teach it again so bad. I miss it. But one big thing that I focused on was German expressionism, silent film, some famous movie stars such as Lon Chaney Sr.
Yes.
And I'm sure the man of 1,000 faces, as they referred to him as. Did you use any of those characters to influence some of the, there he is,
Yes.
Did you use any of that to like? How did you come about let's say, the personality of Art the Clown? Just in little things that you did, which is so amazing.
Yeah, that's basically the way I just kind of mashed everything together. My love of the silent, film actors, both the comedic ones and like Lon Chaney, even like Karloff, all those guys. Just like there's so much to learn from watching them because they were able to convey so much without any words. It's just like just the expression on the face, the movements are just look at that. It's just
exactly.
I love it. I just absolutely love watching that. And I just matched that with my love of horror villains because I see Art as being like the ultimate horror fanboy. He's a little bit of every single slasher that came before him. There's bits of Freddy, of course, Jason, Michael Myers, Pinhead, Leatherface, Chucky. All of them are in Art, and so that's why I just blend them all together in my head. And it's funny that you mentioned Lon Chaney because when we were filming part 2, there was a moment that happened, and Damien actually, when we cut, he's like, David, I want you to watch what you just did because I don't think you did this intentionally, but it came across this way. He's like, you looked so much like Lon Chaney in this moment here. You just had this reaction that was just so Lon Chaney, and I'm like, oh my god! And I watched it like that was that's great. It was just so unintentional, but it's one of those things I just have in the back of my head is that theatricality that they had that you don't see in modern cinema anymore. Because those actors back then, they transitioned from being on vaudeville and being on the stage to film, and so they were used to performing in front of a large audience. So a lot of their body movements were a lot more exaggerated because they're used to performing to the very back of the house.
Yeah. And then with sound not coming out really until 1927 with the Jazz Singer, one of the things that a lot of these actors had to do was, you have to in a sense, overact, but just to kind of convey
Correct.
that.
And so what was it? Yeah. That's exactly what I brought into Art. It's like he has to kind of overdo everything.
Yeah. Because there's no speaking, there's not even grunting or any of that, correct?
Right. Oh, God, I can just watch this stuff all day. It's just...
Now, what's interesting is just you're the combined element of just the fact that, okay, you have the obvious scary part, but you made it so, like, humorous at the same time. And, like, these little things, especially the sitting down at the pizzeria. Correct. What was that like? What went into that when you were filming that scene? Just sitting there looking at her, because I would have been horrified seeing something like that. And I like horror, but just sitting down.
I kind of pulled that from just experiences I've noticed here in New York City because I love to people watch. It's a great city to live in to people watch because you see all types of people. But for that especially, because that's such a creepy scene. And I kind of pulled from experiences like my female friends and female roommates have dealt with on the subways, especially, are guys that will just sit there and just stare at you. And that's what I brought into that. I was like, yeah, this is just that kind of lecherous creep that would just sit there and stare at you for no reason. I've even had people do that to me on the subway. And it's kind of weird. You just kind of feel someone staring at you. You're like, okay, stop.
Yeah.
I even did that even before I moved to New York when I was a camp counselor one year at a summer camp. I had these kids that are middle schoolers that are older, so I wouldn't do this to the younger ones, but it was like older ones. They're like 14, 15. They're messing around in the back of the bus, just trying to be a little and they weren't listening to guys, settle down, and they weren't listening to me. So I ended up just staring at them, but with this Joker, just little. And at first, I'm like, okay, cool, cool, man, that's cool. Okay, haha, funny. And I just kept staring at them and trying not to blink. It ended a few minutes. I'm just staring, and I'm still staring at them. Like, okay, please stop, please stop. Okay, stop. This is not funny anymore. Just stop. I almost got this one kid. He's like a football player. I almost got him crying because he was just getting so creeped out by me. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna behave now? And they're like, yes. Don't do that anymore.
If only they knew, what their reaction to be seeing you now. Like, oh my God, that was my counselor.
Now, we do have somebody in the chat had asked if you had come across meeting some people, like actors and things like that. And I noticed that you did have a little bit of an interaction at one point where you were doing your makeup and he was doing his makeup.
Yes.
Sid Haig, you had that opportunity, such an inspiration there. What was that like, having that opportunity?
Oh, man. It's just like, if I had realized just how special that was in the moment, I already realized it was special, but just how really special that was, I would have even taken in more. It was at Mad Monster Party 2 years ago down in North Carolina, which is going on this weekend too, Mad Monster Party. But wish I was there, but COVID. But plus I've been filming, I didn't know if, how things were going to go. But gosh, that was amazing because we're getting our makeup done at the same time in the room together, and that was my first time really meeting Sid as well. And it was kind of like a passing of the torch in some ways. We're like on his way out of the room because we're sitting there trading quips with each other the whole entire time, joking around. Sergeant Slaughter even walked through the room at one point and just kind of looks at us, goes, "Okay." So that was kind of surreal too. I was like, "Oh my God, it's Sergeant Slaughter." As a true kid of the '80s, I was like, "I had you as an action figure," but it was like that was such an amazing moment because he walks out after he came over. We got our picture made together, and he goes to go do his photo ops, and he just turns around and goes, "Seeing her, the big top kid," and I kind of looked at that as like a little passing of the torch and everything like that. And we had done a few conventions together, afterwards, and I had some great conversations with him. Sid was just such a kind, generous man and had so many stories. Oh my God, he was a great storyteller. But one thing I always noticed about him was even when he was sick, he was the first person on the floor at conventions and the last person to leave the floor. I would always try to beat him to the floor every morning, and he would still be there before me. I'm like, how do you do this?
You're like, I'm going to spend the night. I'm going to spend the night there.
But it spoke volumes to me that even though he was sick at that point, he was very tired because I know what cancer, because I lost my mom to cancer, so I know what it does to you. And even as tired as he was so dedicated to being there for his fans. And that really spoke volumes to me about his character. I was like, that's something else. It is. I'm lucky to just have been able to know him just for that short period of time.
Yeah. And it was a great inspiration. I wish I would have had the opportunity to meet him. This is actually one of the things that we're going to be giving away today, guys. In one of the things in fashion is you do have the Sid Haig card.
Yes.
So you'll have an opportunity to get some of these guys right here.
Oh yes.
And of course with Freddie. So these three will be as a collecting. But I wanted to ask you, because of, like going through this experience as the clown, you've had an opportunity with Damien, building that relationship. How has that been now that you seem to have that really good rapport? Like, is there any other interest in collaborations down the road that you guys are talking about? Because eventually, you can't, I don't see Terrifier 10 happening, but eventually you're going to move on to different type of projects. But you guys have a really good rapport, it feels like.
Oh, definitely. God, we're like brothers now. It's because we've spent hundreds of hours now together in the makeup chair alone. That's not even counting on screen and working behind the camera and everything together. It's just so we've built up such a good relationship with each other. It's great. I totally understand like the Tim Burton Johnny Depp relationship now, or like the Guillermo del Toro and Doug Jones relationship. I'm like, yeah, of course. And then, it's like you get so used to working with that person, you build that friendship with each other. See, there's that mutual trust there, and that's what I think is great about Damien. He's one of these great directors for actors because he trusts the people he casts, and he's okay with people suggesting things. And I will come up with something. He's like, hey, let's try it out. So we'll sometimes do different takes on the same scene. We'll do a more serious or scary take, and then we'll do something a little bit sillier and see what works.
Well, we like I said, when you talk about trust and people in relationships, Robert himself, he has somebody that trusts in him very well. And what we're going to do, guys, we're going to take a little quick little commercial break, and we're going to have somebody let you guys know we do a Scream stream. Robert and I do, and we occasionally will be bringing that back. We're going to take a little quick break, and Robert's going to introduce David to his trust. So real quick, guys, let's take that little break.
Hello. Do you like scary streams? Who's your favorite horror team? Now listen to me. Be sure to check out Scream Stream. And maybe for you there'll be a bonus round. But for poor Logan and Jacob, I'm afraid they won't make the team. They've been cut.
And we're back after that commercial break. And just so you guys know as well, on Cameo, you can even get yourself, Mr. David Howard Thornton, to do some cameos for you as well. And that's one of the things that has been really good, I think, in the pandemic to reach out and have some stars be able to do stuff like this is amazing. I think it's a great way to interact with the fans and go from there. David, now, when you look at Robert, like I said, he definitely, he has some talent too. And that's one of the reasons why we've worked so well together is I've got my things that I do, and he has his things that he does. And Robert would like to introduce you to his better half, who trusts Robert pretty well. So we're going to introduce you to Pagliacci. He's our version of the clown. And yeah, so Robert.
Oh my God.
Hey. Well, what a pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you too, man.
I'm just in awe here. I'm a big fan of your work. Love the mutilation that you do. I am Pagliacci. It is a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you too. Glad to see your performance isn't so wooden.
Oh, yes. Try not to be a stiff,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm really, really the star here compared to Robert. So I'm the one that runs things. So I just figured, give him some guidance in here. Like, hey, this is what you got to say. But,
exactly.
What my question to you is, what do you think is the big deal with people being afraid of clowns anyway? The fear of clown, coulrophobia, I believe it's called.
I think what it is, it's clowns walk that fine line of the uncanny valley because they look human, but just not human enough because everything's exaggerated. It's like their movements are exaggerated, their look is exaggerated, so it has that inhuman type of look to them. I think that's what kind of freaks people out.
Well, you also have that de-individualization where the individual's identity is obscured. And so it creates that unknown. Like, what is it? Is this person going to amuse me? Are they going to attack me? Like, so it's like that, okay, what's going on here? And I know that we're supposed to look at clowns, happily, but I don't think that's quite the case. I think a lot of kids find the clowns to be creeped out, even, along the lines of Ronald McDonald, in regards when you look at him, right? It's like, okay, so that's you've been able to add to that fear recently with your performance, and then obviously with the clowns having, on the side of the roads with the balloons.
Yes.
So there's definitely that fear aspect. And then of course, Pagliacci wants to make sure that he's known, he's always got to throw his fear around.
Of course. Mate, I mean, did you have any particular influence of any clowns in particular for yours?
Oh yeah, I'm like, well, I wish I could say, I killed as many people as Ronald McDonald has, though. I think he's got the highest death count.
Not many people mention or think that. That's actually a very point.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very creative with his skills. He's like, I'm going to kill you with heart disease. But yeah, I would say like the big influence for me is right over your right shoulder over there is the Joker.
Ah,
I put a lot of Joker into my rendition of art too. It's like I love Joker.
So can you give us like a little bit of your Joker, like your voice, like how it is for you?
Oh, I have no problem bringing Joker up whenever someone needs me to. I always put a smile on my face when I do it.
Awesome.
that is amazing.
Thank you.